What's going on, fam, and welcome back to another video. As you guys already know, we already know what today is going to be about. It's about the buyer's market, baby. So this is what you and I, this is where we would want to buy a house. This is where we would want to buy some property, own some property, some retail property, rental properties, any kind of stuff like that, right? A buyer's market is the time to buy. I mean, if that doesn't if the word buyer's market doesn't just ring by to you, I don't know what to tell you. But that is generally the best time to invest, to buy a house, buy your forever home, whatever the case is. A buyer's market is the time to buy. The reason being because supply exceeds demand. Now, a lot of you who didn't pass economics in school, that just means that there's a whole lot of houses and not that many people want them, or maybe a good amount of people want them, but it's just only so many people can take that step. That's to put it nicely. But it's simply supply exceeds demand. That means there's a lot of houses, let's say 10 houses, and there's three people looking. Now, in that situation, buyers do have more leverage than the sellers, just because there's plenty of houses. There's what is the old saying? There's plenty of fish in the sea. Think of it in terms of houses when it comes to a buyer's market. You can, as a buyer, you can go and see five separate houses, and you can basically decide how you want to go about it. You can say, hey, I really like this house, but if you can bring the price down, 10K or 20K, whatever, if you could waive this, do this, then I'll move in. But if the seller is like, you know what, no, I'm not going to do that, then a buyer could literally just go to the next, hey, this is what I want, this is the price I'm looking for, this is how it's going to go down. Usually buyers have more leverage. It's just because there's more options out there. If I'm looking for a 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom house, I guarantee you I can find four, five, six options in a general area of where I want to live. So just remember that in a buyer's market, buyers have most of the leverage. I'm not saying that sellers don't have any, because obviously it's your property before you sell it, right? So you do have a little bit of leverage, but not as much as you would probably want or think. And then the last thing is just you need to watch out for the price drops and the negotiation rights. Excuse me. Price drops always happen when a buyer's market starts. And that's usually, it could be anywhere from the ultra unfortunate where, people get their homes foreclosed to, hey, it's time to sell, and we want to move somewhere else. Whatever the case is, usually the prices start to drop. So like right now, you try and go find or at least where I live currently, if you go and try and find a 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom house, you're going to be paying anywhere from 250 up. That's obviously a little ridiculous for 2 bed, 2 bath, but on the same ticket in, let's say, 6 months or so, probably a little less than that on the current market trends, but anywhere from 3 to 6 months from now, the prices are they're gonna fall. And that's just because a lot of people aren't moving in the winter, in the spring, or sorry, the winter and the fall times. You usually want to be solidified in a spot before the holidays come, because that's a big deal for a lot of people. So that's usually the time when it's time to buy. It's time to invest, because that's when you're going to have the lowest prices. And that pretty much just wraps up what a buyer's market is, guys. And then I just want to cover these tips for you guys. And these are for buyers and for sellers. I'll go over the buyers first, just because we're already in a buyer's market. Why not? And it's really simple. I mean, most of these things that I'm about to tell you are straight up common sense. I mean, if you go and buy a house, if you plan on going and spending multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars, because you're not going to buy a house for 10K, if you plan on going and spending multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars, you need to take your time. That is the very first tip. You need to take your time and really sit down, look at your financials, look at where you want to be in 10 years. I know a lot of people say, hey, this isn't going to be my forever home. We're going to move, blah, 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 blah. Hey, I'm in the same boat. The first house I buy, I don't plan on staying there forever, because between you and me, I hate Wisconsin. I want to move down south, back where I'm from, so I can be down there where it's warm. But, I do plan on getting a home here first. I have my first child on the way. So obviously I want to get some property here. And that should be a home, that I will be able to pass down to my kids. That doesn't mean that's where I'm going to live forever. But when it comes to looking for a house, you need to make sure that you take your time. If you just go into the market willy-nilly saying, I'm going to waive this and I'm going to pay X amount over, you're going to get screwed over. I'm not telling you that, every person out there is in the game to screw you over, but a good amount of them are. If you go into a situation saying, I'm going to pay $50,000 over the asking price just because I want this home, no look inspections, no anything, you're going to get screwed. It's just the name of the game. So I want you guys to take your time. It's imperative that you take your time. The next thing, know what's available. These are all things for buyers. You need to know what's available. There's going to be, in a buyer's market, there's going to be more than enough homes on the market for you to go through and just take your time and look through and like, oh, this one has this and, this one doesn't. And, this is the kind of kitchen that I like and this one has the garage that you really need to just know what's available. Because the more options that you know are available, the better choice that you can make. Because think about it this way, if you have two choices, you have home A and home B, you're going to choose home A or home B. If home A and home B are both crappy, you're still choosing home A or home B. So you want to make sure you know what's out there, because while you might only be looking at A and B, there could be C, D, E, F, all the way down to Z, and you're just focused on these two. So just make sure you always know what's available to you. The last, or I'm sorry, not the last thing. Woo. The third thing is compare. You need to always compare the prices. If you see a home that you like and you see another home that you like and they have just about everything, both of the homes have just about everything you want, you need to make sure that, let's say home A, it has everything except for the picketed fence that you wanted in the backyard, and B has everything, including that fence. Then what you need to do is you need to compare those prices. Let's say the one that actually comes with the fence that you want is only $500 more than the house without. Obviously, for those who've never had a fence in place or anything like that, it's usually going to cost you a little bit more than $500. You're probably just going to be paying $500 in either labor or the actual materials themselves. So that $500 difference could be the difference between, hey, this is the home I need, this is the home I want, versus this is the home it's good, but I'm going to have to do a little bit of upkeep or add something to it. And that $500 difference could be the determining factor. You just need to make sure that you compare. And then the last thing for buyers is just to pay attention to how many days a home has been on the market. Usually the longer it's been on the market, the cheaper it will be. The reason being is because realtors don't want houses to sit too long. If it sits too long, things happen. It's life. Pipes rust. Filters need changed. Rot happens to wood. All these different things happen when the house is just sitting there, when no one's living in it, when no one's doing any kind of upkeep, when no one's doing anything to it. So the longer it's on the market, usually, I'm not going to say every time, but usually it will be slightly cheaper. I'm not saying it's going to be like $50,000 cheaper, but it might be, 1, 2 to 5 grand less. Just off of that, just off of, knowing how long a house has been on the market. That is your responsibility to find out too, by the way. Your realtor may know that information, but it's always better that you know what you're getting into, because not everyone has your best interests at heart. And then for my sellers, look, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Sellers, you're not really going to be as powerful as you would in a seller's market, obviously, but there are some tips that can help you to elevate what you're trying to sell. The first thing, and this should be a no-brainer, clean and organize. If it's dirty and it's disorganized everywhere, I guarantee you it'll be about a 5-second decision, because I'm going to walk into that house, I'm going to look around and see, wow, this is disgusting. And I'm going to be like, oh, wow, yeah. I don't think this is the one for me. Thanks, though. Because it's not clean. It's not organized. It's not, it's not presentable to someone who is looking to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. The next thing, price it fairly. If you know for a fact that you're trying to sell your home, and let's say it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom in a very nice neighborhood or whatever the case is, and you know that a general house in your neighborhood goes for $300,000 to $350,000. If you put that house up for $500,000, you are going to have a bad time. I'm not saying nobody's going to buy it. I'm just saying you're probably going to be the last one bought. But hey, in this market, who knows? So just make sure you put it, I understand you want to make some money on your house, especially when you sell it, but just keep in mind that everybody doesn't have just, an extra amount of money to just throw out there. So if you're trying to sell your home for well over the asking price or well over the price that you think it's worth, just know it might take a little longer. You might have some troubles. Just think about that and, price it fairly. And you know, another thing, you wouldn't want somebody to overprice a house that you really wanted, right? So just keep that in mind. Next thing, carefully consider your offers. When you are a seller, you're going to have a bajillion offers. That's not a real number. Don't copyright that. Don't quote me on that. You're going to have a bajillion offers come through. They're going to say, hey, I'm willing to no look inspection. I'm willing to pay 10,000, 15,000 over the asking price. You need to go through each one of those specifically and vet them yourself. The reason I say this one specifically is because you never know a situation where someone puts an offer in on the house, and just because it's a large sum of money doesn't necessarily mean that is a worthwhile choice. And when I say that, the reason I say that is just because sometimes people are not buying homes to live in them. Sometimes they're buying them for other purposes. We won't get into that, but it does happen. It's just the way that our world works. So you just want to make sure you vet these people. Make sure that, hey, I see you want to move in, where'd you live before? Why are you moving? Just some simple basic stuff. Just make sure that you're carefully checking out all of these offers. Next thing, ensure the pre-approval. This is the most important thing on this list. Ensure the pre-approval. The reason I am saying that is because there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be like, hey man, here, yeah, go ahead and cash this check, blah, 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 first month, blah, 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 blah. And then that shoot is going to bounce because, their pre-approval, was good and then it wasn't, they went and they put in for it and, you're telling them, hey, I put in for pre-approval, so, I'd like to look and get everything started. And let's say you bank on this one person and then their pre-approval gets denied. Then you have to start back from square one as a seller, find another prospect to try and move into the home while you've already just spent, X amount of days, weeks, months, working with this first person. So just make sure that people make it through the pre-approval process first. There's a lot of P's back to back, pre-approval process. And then the last thing is you just want to watch for contingencies. A lot of people may try and game the system, quote unquote, by having contingencies built into their, their buying lease. And just what that means is, hey, I'm willing to buy this home as long as XYZ gets done. Or, I'm willing to buy this home as long as you say you're going to replace the water heater when it goes bad the first time. Those little things here and there, those ins and outs of the contract, those are what you want to watch out for when it comes to contingencies, because sometimes those contingencies might not be in your best interest as the seller. I guess the only off the top of my head thing that I can think of is when a buyer wants to move into a house, everything's been approved, everything's good to go, and then at the last second, it's like hey, this was all hinging on the yard getting redone or something like that, right? And so the person is literally the day before they move in, but if you as a seller haven't finished whatever contract contingency that you were, obligated to do, then that buyer can actually back out of that like instantly. They can get their money back from their deposit, their first month's mortgage. They can get it all back. So just be careful on that. So guys, I know this one was a little bit longer than the seller's market. Seller's markets are a little bit easier to explain just because you sell, right? It's not really rocket science, but when it comes to buying, because there's an investment aspect to it as well as just a human trying to buy a home for their family aspect, I just wanted to go a little bit slower and break it down just a little bit further for you guys. So please, please, please like the video, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. It really does help the channel out. Dig the hat, obviously, hat game always strong. And with that, guys, I will let you guys enjoy your weekend. Happy Friday. Thank you for being here with me. And with that, guys, stay safe, wear a seatbelt, and I'll catch you next time.